Manchester United may well have ended the season in 8th, but they finished the season with a trophy when they lifted the FA Cup. It sparked a debate on talkSPORT this week with regards to whose season ended better, Manchester United or Arsenal. Of course, these are two sides that, if you go back to the 90s, 2000s, long-term rivals when you bring in Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, two sides that were always battling it out for the title. So it kind of makes sense that we bring them back together with regards to this debate. On the warm-up yesterday, Perry Groves and Charlie Baker were joined by the Guardian's Jamie Jackson, who went toe-to-toe with Perry Groves on who had a better season then between those two clubs.
Hold on a minute, Jamie, don't be silly. Arsenal, don't be silly. Arsenal have a philosophy. Arteta is in charge of everything that goes on there. The players are buying in. The players.
What did he win this season?
It's progression. Are you really comparing Manchester United to Arsenal?
What I'm saying is, in 10 years' time, do you think people look back at the season and go, "Oh, Arsenal progressed," or will they look at who won trophies? And I think that's what, if you're a fan, I think that's what's important. It's glory. You know, you won a couple of league titles. You were a brilliant player. Surely it's about winning stuff, right?
So, yeah, I agree. Right. What happened with winning the FA Cup? Manchester United redeemed their season. Because you're right, I agree with you. Any professional sport is about winning and winning trophies, so I get that. But there's no comparison at all between Manchester United team at the moment and squad and Arsenal. Manchester United are miles away.
Yeah, no, the comparison I was making was one team won a trophy and the other one didn't.
But Manchester United have regressed. No, Manchester United have regressed from his first season, finished 3rd, winning the League Cup, to finishing 8th, their worst position they've finished in Premier League history. I think it was 14 defeats in that. So, yeah, I don't get.
Okay, it's an interesting debate, and I know obviously Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent have had this as well. One being a United fan, one being an Arsenal supporter as well. Can we have this debate? Is it a fair debate? Who's right if we're having this one?
100% Perry.
Is it?
I don't look. Okay, let's simplify it, okay? The two managers, Ten Hag, we don't know if he's staying or going.
Yeah.
Right? He's won a trophy, but we don't know. Why is he going? Because of the season. Now, if we're saying who had the best at the end of the season, well, they won the FA Cup in the end part of the season, Man United. But Arteta's going nowhere at Arsenal. There's even talk of a new contract. So if you look at it simplistically and just go, one manager's absolutely certainly staying because the club recognise that they are moving in the direction to challenge Man City and be the club to... Arsenal, for me, are going to be every bit as hard to beat next year and probably even better.
Yeah.
Because there's a progression going on at the football club. And I understand the idea of winning because it's important, but Man United's season was dreadful.
You're right. And to play devil's advocate in this one, you're talking about simplistic. At the end of the day, who's got a trophy in their cabinet this year? It's Manchester United. Yes, you're right. Over a whole season, without a doubt, we know where Arsenal are at right now. We know that journey, that progression, the expected trajectory that they're going on as well. We know it's all good things with Arsenal. And you're right, Manchester United's domestic season in the Premier League was awful. Worst ever
Champions
finish.
League as well.
Conceded the most goals. Yeah, absolutely.
I know
you're
Arsenal
quite right.
went out in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, got through their group comfortably.
But Jamie Jackson's also right. In years to come, we won't go, oh, God, you remember that season when Manchester United were awful? They'll go, but the honours will just show you that they won a trophy. So you won't necessarily remember. You might, as a general, go, Eric Ten Hag's tenure wasn't great, wasn't as progressive as Mikel Arteta. But if Mikel Arteta never wins another trophy, yes, he's won the FA Cup. Then surely.
Well, okay, you could probably make 10 reasons for why Arsenal had a good season. You've only got one for Man United. You've only got one. It's the FA Cup victory, and that's it. Their season wasn't good. Man United have always been the club, especially in recent history, of setting standards.
But
and
ultimately...
they've fallen way short from that.
Yeah, and I get you. And I'm saying I'm playing devil's advocate because I do, as a whole, get where you're coming from. And I do think that Arsenal have had a great season. Of course they have. But so many clubs are measured on trophies.
Look, when Jurgen Klopp said about the title running, he said when Arsenal... They got beaten by Man United. He might have a bit of sour grapes in his mouth when he spoke, but he said, if they play like that against Arsenal, they get beat. Right? He knew that Man United were there for the taking, and Liverpool got beat They got knocked out by a cup and got beat. Or got a draw in the league, didn't they? A draw in the league at Old Trafford. So, you know, what did they end up? 7th in the league? Was it 7th? 8th in the league, Man United. You know, just it's unrecognisable to watch them and think you could even compare Arsenal and Man United over the course of last season. To me, it's impossible.
But you can't compare. You're absolutely right. You can't compare the two in terms of where they're at right now. Right. But simply on what success they've had. So, surely Manchester United top Arsenal because they've won a trophy. Arsenal haven't. So just based on that.
Yeah.
Simply on that. Surely
no,
Manchester
I can't. That's too simple for me. I'd have to say you've got to look a lot more deeper, and there's a lot more to talk about over the course of the season. You talk about Man United were in a really easy Champions League group compared to Copenhagen in their group, and you know I remember thinking that should be a slam dunk for Man United to get out of that group. They didn't. So they had obviously European competition as well. They weren't good. The only thing they were really good in it was the FA Cup and. Yeah, and Liverpool could have easily beaten Man United in the FA Cup game. They were in front.
But what would you rather as a player? Would you rather be Premier League runners-up or FA Cup winners?
Well, I was come second with Villa.
Yeah, but what would you rather?
I think if I was talking over the bigger picture, I would probably say being second in the Premier League is not a bad thing. I don't know.
But a winner's medal? You'd rather have that than
we was playing Man United in the final. They stuffed us 4-0.
I know, but
I'd have been really proud of that because it was a great Man United team. So I'd have probably say the FA Cup purely because we played Man United in the final when it was at Chelsea. I'd have probably took that. But if I'm talking over the course of a season, I don't know now. I think you can take a lot of pride out of how good you were over a course of a season. Yeah. And Arsenal are miles in front of Man United.
Look, there's no debate about that whatsoever. I do agree with you. Look, they finished 29 points ahead of them in the table. Of course, I get it. And I was always playing devil's advocate.
It's really the only argument is that you've won that. Okay,
but that's
won that.
They
went through the
semi-final
on a penalty shootout. They could have easily not won. Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, fair play to them. This is nothing against Manchester United. I just think I look at United in the past, and maybe I'm getting a bit nostalgic about how good they were because they were. They always set standards. This isn't setting a standard, Man United. You've now got a case we don't even know if the manager stays because the season was so poor. So we really comparing Man United and Arsenal. How can you compare them, even though they won the cup?
Because you just said it, they won the cup. That's why we're comparing.
It's not enough for me. It's not enough.
Weekend Sports Breakfast with Natalie Sawyer and Tony Cascarino. Sunday mornings from 6 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.